Summer's heating up, Indy. Is your AC ready? At LCS Heating and Cooling, we don't follow a corporate playbook. We follow the needs of our neighbors.
We are locally owned and fully invested and always here for your comfort needs when it matters most.
Right now, get a professional AC deep cleaning for just $89. Real value from a team you can trust. Contact us today to discover the difference with LCS Heating and Cooling. LCS Heating and Cooling, launching the way to lasting comfort solutions.
Outside the Forecast on WTHR Plus is sponsored by LCS Heating and Cooling.
Welcome to Outside the Forecast. We are now less than a month away from hurricane season. Hurricane season runs from June 1st through the end of November, so we're getting close. So we thought we'd remind you about what an average hurricane season looks like. We'll look back at 2024 and let you know what researchers, scientists, meteorologists are expecting in terms of 2025 hurricane season. Is it going to be above average or below average? So we'll get into all of that in just a second. Let's start with average. Average hurricane season in the Atlantic, we get 14 named storms each year. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, when does a storm get a name? It happens when it reaches tropical storm strength. That's 39 miles per hour or higher. Once it reaches 74 miles per hour, now we're talking from going to a tropical storm with a name to a hurricane. So it gets a name at 39 miles per hour when it reaches tropical storm strength. Average 7 hurricanes a season, and we average 3 major hurricanes a season. Now, what is a major hurricane? That is a category 3 or higher. Let's look back at 2024. If you remember, it was an active hurricane season and a devastating hurricane season for especially the southeastern part of our country. We ended up with 18 named storms in 2024. That's above the average of 14. Ended up with 11 of those named storms becoming hurricanes, also above the average of 7, and we ended up with 5 major hurricanes in 2024. A look ahead, researchers, scientists, meteorologists expecting an active hurricane season in 2025 and again above average. Forecast for now stands at 17 named storms, 9 of which become hurricanes, and of those 9 hurricanes, 4 reaching major hurricane strength. And remember, that's category 3 or higher. So what are we talking about in terms of wind? Well, I mentioned 74 miles per hour. That's when it reaches category 1 hurricane strength. It goes from a tropical storm to a hurricane. Once we get to a category 3 strength, we're talking about winds 111 to 129 miles per hour. Category 4 strength, 130 to 156, and a category 5 at 157 miles per hour or higher. In terms of naming storms, there are 6 lists of names that the National Hurricane Center works with. And so these lists rotate each year. The list for 2025 starts with Andrea and ends with Wendy. Some interesting information about naming storms as we look at that list of names for 2025. Remember, there are 6 lists and they rotate each year. Well, out of those 6 lists, there's no Q, U, X, Y, or Z because there aren't enough common names. Actual naming didn't begin until 1953, and they used to be all female names. From 1953 all the way to 1979, it wasn't until 1979 that they started alternating male-female names. And when a storm is particularly dangerous or devastating, that name is retired. So it's removed from that list and never used again. From 2024, the retired names from the National Hurricane Center, Beryl, Helene, and Milton. Remember, it was an active, devastating year in terms of hurricanes and really impacting the southeastern part of the country. And so those 6 lists of names will never include Beryl, Helene, or Milton because they were so devastating. National Hurricane Center expecting above average hurricane season. It starts on June 1st and will run through the end of November. And this is a good place here on WTHR Plus as we navigate our way through hurricane season, and the outside the forecast setup will give us we'll be able to give you additional information on how these storms form, when they're forming, and things like that. So stick with us here on WTHR Plus and outside the forecast.
Ground temperatures are warming up, and that means cicadas are starting to merge across parts of the eastern and southern U.S. I'm 13 News meteorologist Matt Standridge. I'm going to show you where those reports are coming in here in early May and the timeline of when we could expect some of those cicadas to emerge right here in Indiana. Remember, we have two different types of cicadas. We've got the annual cicadas. They come every single year. And I'll show you the difference on how they look. You can spot them easily. And then we also have the periodic cicadas. We've got lots of different broods. There are 13-year broods and 17-year broods. And we've got a 17-year brood coming up for your 2025 spring and into early summer. That is brood 14 and Roman numerals XIV. They're also called the Magicicadas. Some of them are called Magicicadas. This is kind of one of those species ones. This map shows you the forecast. And we got a couple different layers here. The red states show you where we're going to see possibly a lot of cicadas. The orange brownish states show where there could be a few counties. That includes Indiana. It's not going to be a widespread thing. I'm going to show you which counties will possibly see the cicadas. And then the red dashed line shows you where the concentration of those are. So for example, for Indiana, you're going to see in the maps here in a moment, most of the counties, there's a few of them, but not definitely widespread, but most of them are in southern Indiana. So we went ahead and kind of drew the dashed line there. Then you look at Tennessee, for example. A lot of them will be in Tennessee, but not in western Tennessee necessarily. So that's why you kind of see them more towards the north and east, towards Knoxville, headed towards Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, even to Asheville, parts of western North Carolina starting to see those. So I'll show you the maps here in a moment, but these are the states. So Indiana is not the bullseye, but we do think we'll get a couple of these bad boys coming in. 17-year cicada, this is the Magicicada. You can really tell by its darker body, and then you've got these brown and kind of mustardy type colored accents. But the big giveaway are those red eyes. You can't miss them. These are the normal cicadas. We get cicadas every single year. They're a little bit more toned down. You get a little bit more green on them. And you don't have the red eye, you have just, black eye. He kind of just fades right in with the rest of the body. So when we're talking about cicadas, they're not out all year. In fact, they're down deep in the soil. The eggs were laid the year before. Once we get soil temperatures 8 inches down, which are a little bit more consistent. It takes a while for those to warm up rather than the surface topsoil. Once you hit 64 degrees, that's when they start waking up. And we're starting to see that take place across parts of the U.S. These pink dots show you where we have gotten reports so far. You can kind of see where we're in that bullseye zone, especially the southern half of it. We've got some reports coming in from around Tennessee, especially eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky. We've even had a few right there by the Ohio River. So Indiana is going to be next. And we'll also see a spreading of some of the cicada reports into the mid-Atlantic region. Those will be next. So how this kind of works is they pop up and they'll do their thing. They'll mate, they'll fly around. They'll be alive for about 5 to 6 weeks. They put their eggs in the ground and then they die. And that's it. They're only around for just about a month and a half or so once they start emerging. And not everyone will emerge exactly at the same time because it really depends on our temperatures. We're using some data from the Purdue Mesonet. This is from May 4th. And these temperatures don't range quite a bit from day to day, but there is a little bit of range, even at 8 inches down, especially when it comes to rainfall, how much water's kind of going into the soil, and some longer term trends. If you get one really hot day, you may not really see much of a budge, but if you get several hot days in a row, you start seeing the 8-inch soil temperatures start to adjust. But here the first week of May, we actually had a lot of clouds and some showers, so we actually were a little bit warmer. We were near about 62. We were getting close to that threshold, but some cooler days and some extra rainfall. We've actually cooled back down to right next to 60. So remember, 64 is kind of that magic number. We are getting close in parts of southern Indiana. Central Indiana, not as many counties, but we're also a little bit cooler. We're still in the 50s. It's going to probably take us another 2 weeks really to get there. But I think over the next week, we're going to start to see, maybe week and a half, we'll start to see some of those cicadas start to merge. All the way through about mid-May is when they're expected to kind of merge across most of Indiana. If we keep cool for northern Indiana, it may be more towards late May, but generally mid-May is when we'll start seeing. But all these are the counties that are included. It's Brood 14, and there's also 14 counties in Indiana where we expect them. This forecast gets really kind of wonky because the only way we can forecast is looking at previous years and the counties that they popped up. So for example, Bartholomew County around Columbus and Brown County there towards Nashville. However, it's hard to say. They don't move around a lot year, or actually every cycle, 17 years after 17 years. But if we had some in Brown County that got close to the county line and decided to put their eggs into Monroe County, closer to Lake Monroe and Bloomington, we may see them. But generally, we think the best chance will be in some of these counties. Indiana's, once again, it's not the bullseye. We're not going to probably be really much on the national news where you just hear it kind of echoing in the forecast or the forest like crazy. That may be more like Kentucky and Tennessee. We're close, but you really start to see the pickup there in Kentucky. But we do think in southeastern Indiana, right before you get to Cincinnati, some of our southern counties, once you get right next to the Ohio River, just north of Louisville. And then we've got a couple counties here and there to the north and west too. We've had some reports in Putnam County before. There towards the north and west and all the way to the north, all the way to Grant County. So we'll have to see from Marion if we get any this year. But that's our best forecast. So when we expect them to emerge, here we are. Here's May for 2025. The 11th is Mother's Day. Wouldn't that be a nice surprise for Mom starting to get some cicadas? It's probably not what she wants. But we think around Mother's Day and for the next few days, several days after that, that's when they'll be emerging across central Indiana. Then you add in 5 or 6 weeks. We've got them through late June, mid to late June or so. So that's kind of the timeline, what we're expecting. Temperatures are just about to hit that 64 degree mark for the 8-inch soil temperature. So once again, we got the reports. We'll be tracking them throughout the spring, but they're about to be crossing likely the state line into Indiana here very shortly, and then also towards the mid-Atlantic, towards Washington, D.C. You've got Maryland, you've got Pennsylvania, West Virginia. They'll also start to get more reports here soon. Can't miss them. You'll hear them. If you're not hearing them, then you may have to not worry at all. But we could see some, especially around Brown County and farther south towards the Ohio River. Get ready. They're just about to emerge.
Outside the Forecast on WTHR Plus is sponsored by LCS Heating and Cooling.